Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing a small update that I have made to the first Green-Black Aristocrats deck that I featured on my Deck Tech double feature for this archetype. If you'd like to check out the original deck list, there's going to be a link in the description below. What I've done with this list here is I have upped the creature count a little bit. So I've swapped the one Village Rites for the fourth Winding Way because I've upped the creature count from 31 to 35. So now we're running the full 4 Winding Way, the full 4 Lead the Stampede, and I have decided to dub this deck Lead the Way to combine those two cards together here to describe this deck. So to get the 4 extra creatures, what I did is I cut the 2 Rancors. Rancor is obviously an absolutely incredible magic card, but we are trying to really maximize the amount of creatures that we have in this list, and I really wanted to put some Gurmag Anglers in here. So I cut the 2 Rancors for 2 Gurmag Anglers. I swapped one of the Blisterpods for a third Mortician Beetle because this is usually a pretty high impactful card. Even if we're not able to really get it going, it's going to give our opponent a lot of anxiety just knowing that it can grow. So a lot of times they're going to want to try and kill this creature here. So if they're cast downing a Mortician Beetle, it only costs us 1 mana and 1 card, but it's costing our opponent 2 mana and 1 card to get rid of. So another way to just kind of get removal out of their hands and have another threat on the board. I cut 2 lands and I tweaked the mana base a little bit. So I have bumped us up to 3 Golgari Rot Farms because I have taken the land count down to 17. And since we're relying a little bit more on our mana dorks here, I have included more forests and the 4th Ash Barrens, and I've bumped up a Jaspera Sentinel. So the last card that is different between this list is I added in an extra Bone Picker. I found that having creatures in the air is really valuable, and since we're not running any main deck removal, this can sometimes function like a removal spell just by a virtue of having Death Touch. So those are the updates to the deck. Sideboard here is the same, and now I'm going to be jumping into some gameplay to see how this updated version is faring here. So go ahead and just jump right on into a match here. If you hear anything in the background, that's my rabbit muffin tearing up some cardboard. Yes, we'd like to play first. Alright, so this is a very excellent hand. We would love to draw into a Lead the Stampede or a Winding Way, but we have access to all of the mana that we're going to need here. We can go turn 1 Young Wolf, maybe turn 1 we actually want to lead on one of our mana dorks instead. We're not sure what kind of deck the opponent is on here, but if they are playing removal spells, potentially getting those mana dorks could be a little bit rough, but that is going to set us up. Either way, we're not going to be able to turn to Groff the Young Wolf, unfortunately, so unless we draw an untapped land. So I think what I'm going to do here is I am just going to lead on Jaspera Sentinels. And then if they kill this, next turn we can just run out the Elves of Deep Shadow and go Golgari Rot Farm. If they don't kill this, we can get out both the Elves of Deep Shadow and the Young Wolf here. So let's see what deck our opponent is on, see if we're able to tell that based off of their turn 1 play here. We've got an Island and a Careful Study. That's interesting. I have found that the Delver matchups with this deck really aren't too bad. Oh, 2 Deep Analysis in the graveyard. That's very interesting. On some kind of maybe madness discard graveyard deck over here. Not totally sure what to expect out of this list here, so let's just try and get some good stuff going here. We'll throw out the Elves of Deep Shadow, we'll tap for green, and get our Young Wolf out. Then we're going to throw the Rot Farm down, which means next turn we'll have access to 3, 4, 5 mana potentially, so we might be able to Groff and Lead the Stampede next turn. So we'll just pass back here and see if we can get any more information about their deck. If they Deep Analysis here, that would be pretty good for us because they're probably not too likely to do that because it looks like they would have to discard down to hand size, and they have a tapped land anyways, so we've got a Piracy Charm to kill our Elves of Deep Shadow. That's okay. So it looks like we're not going to be able to Groff and Lead the Stampede here, but we could go Elves of Deep Shadow and Groff. We're not going to be able to attack though, which is a little bit awkward, but I think that we probably just want to go Nest Invader. Get our little token here, and then we can go to swings. We're just going to swing in one here. I think I am still sacrificing the young wolf here. And then we can potentially have access for more mana next turn for Lead the Stampede. So we'll throw out the Groff here. We'll cast. We'll sacrifice the young wolf. And then we'll ship it back. So we've got a pretty reasonable clock here. Our opponent might be holding up a counter spell. Getting our Lead the Stampede countered would be pretty bad, but if they're tapping out to counter us, that means that they're probably not going to be able to very effectively block. We got a Wild Mongrel here. That's interesting. So I think that I'm probably going to want to swing with my 2/2s. If they are discarding a card to kill something, potentially discarding 2 to kill the Groff, I think that I'm just okay with that. So let's go to combat. And let's swing like this. They do 2 deep analysis in the graveyard, so if they are discarding cards from their hand to save the Wild Mongrel, or God forbid just letting them trade, they will be able to deep analysis some stuff back, but that is not super bad for us because they're going to have to be paying life to do that as well. Alright, they are discarding a card. Probably not going to get madness value unless it is a... it was not a Basking Root Walla. So let's go Lead the Stampede. Could have potentially been good to do this before combat. Oh, they are going to counter it. Okay, they do have the counter spell. They only have 2 cards in their hand though, so it's not the worst thing here. Alright. No. Alright. And then I think I'm just going to run out the other Jaspera Sentinels here. Could have gone with the Elves of Deep Shadow there as well. We only really have one creature that we want to be tapping down in addition to the Jaspera Sentinel to produce mana, so we can potentially swing with our other cards here, but we can throw down the Elves of Deep Shadow next turn as long as that doesn't get countered, and use that to tap for mana with the second Jaspera Sentinel as well as the Eldrazi Spawn. Leader Ilkor, very interesting card. I think it's a neat card, but I don't think that it has enough going for it to really be a solid card in Pauper, although it can be alright. A little bit mana hungry though. Throw out the Elves, so we don't really have much going here. Possibly could have just held on to that Lead the Stampede. Circular Logic is a card that we should be able to expect out of this deck here. They have 3 in hand, so I think I'm actually just going to attack with the Groff here. Because at this point here, trading my Nest Invader, or not even trading, just having my Nest Invader get chumped off like that does not feel very good. Let's see if they are going to discard the 2 cards, because I'd be pretty okay with that. Okay, so they do have the Basking Root Walla. Okay, that's pretty good. And we are in a position here where we are really going to need to get into another Lead the Stampede or Winding Way and hope that they don't have more counter magic for us. So it looks like they're going to be discarding 1 more card. And if that causes them to trade, then I'm just fine with that. Yeah, they can't discard 2 more cards. Alright, so those guys are going to trade there. That didn't feel like too bad of a trade to me because they did have to discard a number of cards to get there, and now all of a sudden I have better attacks this next turn. Although the Basking Root Wallet is actually going to prove a little bit problematic for our little 1 and 2 power creatures here. So they swing, they're going to get to draw and discard. And let's hope we can get into some action here. They're going to play Deep Analysis down to 8, so we are running them pretty low. Potentially we might be able to swing with an Alpha Strike here, but I don't know if this is the turn we want to be doing it. So if we swung with everything here, we could potentially get through just 3 damage. That feels really bad. They are going to eat something up, so they would eat up our Nest Invader, and then we're just left with 3/1 power creatures. That doesn't feel very good. They already know about this forest here, so we're just gonna run it back out, toss this young wolf down that we top decked, and it looks like we're just passing back. So we've stalled out a bit here, hopefully going to get into some more gas here. We did really want that Lead the Stampede to resolve, so it's possible we could have just held that up in our hands, but hindsight's 20/20. So they got 3 cards in hand, and they're going to draw and discard, so we can probably expect them to have some kind of interaction next turn in some form of counter spell, or let's see, if they're just on green-blue, I don't think there's going to be really much or any more madness interactions that they can really get us with other than maybe just another Basking Root Walla if they have an instant way to discard. I'm not sure if this deck does, though. Blisterpod's not great here, but it looks like we are at a point where we are just going to need to start Alpha Striking if we want any chance to win this game. So let's keep this card in our hand so that our opponent doesn't have that information while they're making our blocks. They could counter it, but I think that we just want to do this anyway. Let's just hold the little pest back. There's no point in swinging with that. They can't block with the Literal Core due to Shadow, but then we might as well just have this sitting back. There's not any real reason to bluff it that I can think of. So we're going to get 4 damage through. We are going to lose the Nest Invader as expected. And we'll see if they have anything else other than the pump. I'm just going to pump it and eat it. It's a little tasty snack for the tiny little lizard there. Get our Blisterpod out and we will ship it back. So hopefully here we are going to be able to close the game out with 2 Alpha Strikes. We are going to be losing one of our creatures in each of those exchanges. They're definitely either going to block the Jaspera Sentinel or the Elves of Deep Shadow to take us off of those. So let's see, they don't have probably instant ways to discard things, so if we're going to see a Basking Root Walla, it's going to be during their turn here. There it is. Okay. So let's see. We can only chip through 3 next turn. We lose 2 creatures, and it's not going to be 2 of the creatures that regenerate themselves. So that means that we would have 3 next turn. They would be at 3, and we're only going to be able to get 1 through if the board doesn't change. So it does not really look like we have good swings anymore at this point. Could potentially swing with the Young Wolf to try and trade it up to a 2/2. That is still just going to get stonewalled by these 3/3 Basking Root Wallas. So, you know, I can't really see a downside to attacking with the Young Wolf here. Like, it's just going to upgrade it to a 2/2, right? I mean, I guess they could bounce it back to our hand, but that's just giving us more bodies as well. Alright, so a Carrion Feeder or something here would be really helpful. Just going to swing with the Young Wolf. That may not be right, but it is going to just be more things our opponent's going to need to kill later. So Maybe could have held that back, but we'll just upgrade it into a 2/2. Alright, comes back with a 9. And we'll just keep this forest in our hand here. Alright, so they've got some more filtration going on. Their card quality is definitely going up a lot here, so we are going to want to try and close this game out here soon, if we are able to. That's really good. Okay, okay. So yeah, we are going to need to hit some action, like, now. By this point here, they've very likely been able to find another circular logic or perhaps some other type of counter spell. Okay. And an Aquamoeba. Alright. I guess we're just trying to get this Groff out. We don't have good attack, so we will sacrifice our little 0/1 here. And it looks like we're just passing. No good attacks. So really need to draw into a Winding Way or Lead the Stampede, or at the very least, something like a Bone Picker that's going to let us close this game out here. So even more filtering. See what they toss into their graveyard here, if they're going to hit any more Madness cards. Doesn't look like we are seeing that. They got a Hooting Mandrills in here. That seems pretty good in this deck. Got another Basking Root Walla. It does seem pretty good with the looters because their little 1/1 body that can't block feels better when you're getting other free 1/1s that can be 3/3s. So that is a Winding Way. We are going to try and resolve this here. It might just get countered. If it does get countered, then we really just need to draw another one next turn. See if this happens. Let's see, with Circular Logic, it would be 1 for each card in your graveyard. Wow, it's just all cards. Well, definitely can't play that if it gets countered with Circular Logic. And it looks like Circular Logic. Yep, there it is. Alright, we will not pay that because we cannot. And I guess we're just passing back here. We really need to get into a Bone Picker. Could potentially close this game out in 2 attacks if they don't hit another way to gain life. Potentially one of the bounce lands, getting back the Thornwood Falls could do that. Might be running something like Weather the Storm, but probably not in the main deck here. I'm sure we're gonna, sure they have access to those at least for the following games. Alright, yep, they're just slowly chipping away at us here. And we're seeing another looter here. Alright, so they have a 4-turn clock on us if they're still holding back everything except for the looters. So that's probably the worst draw that we could have gotten here. Any of our lands were the worst draws. So we still do not have any attacks, because if we swing with the Bayou Groff, they can just double block with Basking Root Walla, and we trade our Groff for a single Root Walla. So we are just going to have to pass back here. And it looks like our plan here is to just get lucky in games 2 and 3. Really sweet deck our opponent's on. Yep, they're going to get to filter 3. This is probably sealing the deal here because they are going to be able to get something that interacts with our outs here in very short order if they don't have them already. Yep, let's just go ahead and always yield to this looter here. I'm not going to be doing anything in response to those. Something I'm working on getting a little bit better at is using the always yield pretty aggressively, but in a way where I'm not going to regret it later, because preferably I like to play in a way where I never have to remove my auto yields. So for example, I never F6 and pass all the way until the end of the turn. I always pass just right until the end step. So that way I'm never missing anything, because a lot of times I will want to do stuff on their end step, but if I don't, it's just one more click. So we'll say GG here. And we will go to game 2. Okay, so for this list here, we are probably going to want to bring in a way to interact with the graveyard. Would be good. Crypt Rats seems pretty good here. Let's pull out a... I guess we're just going to lighten up a little bit. So let's pull out a Mortician Beetle. They might be bringing in ways to bounce stuff. Let's pull out a Nest Invader. And the Bone Pickers seem really good here. Gurmag Angler seems fine. Maybe I could just go down one of those. And let's cut... this is so hard making these cuts here. Let's just cut our Blisterpod, and we'll run it back here. Yep, we would like to play first. This is a very good hand. We will keep this. It looks like turn 2, unless we draw some black mana, or unless we draw... I guess we just have the one swamp that comes in, or the Ash Barrens, to play out the Mortician Beetle. Otherwise, it looks like we might be winding way here on our next turn. And then if we hit more than... If we hit, I think 4 cards, we'll have to be discarding. Alright. Let's go to combat, because there is no possible way that we're going to be able to use this creature for mana and play our Groff here, so we're just going to do this winding way here. And let's see, if we get, 4 cards, we're going to have to discard, but that would be a pretty good problem to have. Alright, that's excellent. So this next turn, we are potentially going to have access to 3 mana if we don't draw any other land sources. Mana sources on lands. Words are hard. Alright, we got the Wild Mongrel, but no mana for counters yet. Alright, looking pretty alright. Another Groff. Alright, so it looks like we are probably just going to be... Let's just get out as many creatures as we can here. And then next turn we can do stuff like maybe Groff plus a Bone Picker or 2. That seems pretty good. So we will tap for black. We'll tap and get the Mortician Beetle out. So off to a pretty good start here. Alright, and ship the turn back. So let's see, they've got 3 mana that they're holding up. Looks like they're just going to be playing stuff in main phase 2. We're just going to take this here. Might be discarding a Basking Rootwalla. Nope. Aquamoeba? Oh, it's the Looter. Okay. So at this point here, if they have one of those circular logics, they are not going to be able to counter our spells, it looks like. So we are going to go green, and we'll just tap here because we're probably going to be tapping all of these things here. We'll go Bayou Groff, cast, we'll sacrifice the Brindle Shoat. Brindle Shoat was an excellent draw here. Alright, buff the Mortician Beetle up a little bit. Okay, And then we are going to want to get out this Bone Picker here. So it looks like at this time here we have pretty safe attacks with this Mortician Beetle, so I am going to swing here. They can't block, so the worst thing that they could do would be to discard a Basking Root Walla, but then that would have to trade with it, so that felt like a pretty good attack there. We will tap for black and play a Bone Picker. So I don't believe that there's a way that they should be able to interact with this given the mana that they have. And given that their graveyard is currently empty. Oh, I guess that, okay. They are going to be able to counter it here. Of course, yeah, they can, we're tapped out, yeah. Yeah, so I miscalculated that here, but we do have another Bone Picker for next turn as well. They are going to be leaving this circular logic up probably indefinitely, so it is one of those things we are just going to have to get out of their hand. Alright. So we will pass it back, and then next turn we can play out the extra Groff and another Bone Picker, and we'll see if they have some more counter spells. Alright, they come in, hit us for 1. They're going to get to filter a card. Potentially seeing a Madness card here. Arrogant Worm is castable. Alright, so we got our turn here. That's pretty good. Let's tap these two. We'll play the Rot Farm. Bounce the forest back to our hand. And then let's tap this for black. I think I'm just going to sacrifice away this Elves here. So we will sacrifice. Let's see. There we go. And they got the 1 black floating for another Bone Picker. They could potentially have another counter spell here, but let's see, maybe a Snap or an Echoing Truth. Oh, a counter spell, okay. Yes, I would. So let's see. It looks like we do not have... If they do have exactly Wild Mongrel, then swinging with a Mortician Beetle is bad. They could also just discard a card with the Wild Mongrel that's not Basking Root Walla. And then we would also trade here. So if they have a Deep Analysis or a Basking Root Walla in their hand, attacking with the Mortician Beetle at this point would not be a good play. So we'll see if they have another Circular Logic. There it is. Yep. So that is going to counter it unless we pay 4. Does the Circular Logic count itself? We will not pay here. It looks like it does not. That's interesting. Alright, so at least we have that information before we attack here. So if our opponent has... Let's see, I think that the Groff attack here is good. I think the Groff attack here is good. We could attack with all of these. Let's just do Groff. Let's just do Groff, because if they do have Deep Analysis in their hand, it makes the other two feel pretty bad. I probably could have attacked with these here. Maybe a little bit too conservative of a play. I don't know, if you have any opinions on that, you could let me know. Alright, so they're going to filter their cards here. It does feel a little bit better swinging in while it doesn't already have the +1/+1. They will have another card in their hand, but they're probably not going to be super inclined to just dump those out. So if we do the Bayou Groff this next turn, we could potentially sack a Jaspera Sentinel, and that will make our Mortician Beetle a 4/4. That feels like a much better swing. So let's see if they're going to discard something with Madness here. Looks like it's just a forest. And we've got the Aquamoeba, so that can only ever turn into a 3/1 if they discard a card. 1 card in hand. So let's just go ahead and run this out here pre-combat. We will toss this out here. You know what? Yeah, I will sacrifice the creature because that does grow the Mortician Beetle, so yeah, let's just sacrifice this. And now I think what I'm doing is I'm swinging with everything except for the Jaspera Sentinel. So let's go to combat. We will attack with all of our creatures except for the Jaspera, and we'll see how they block. So let's see. Ether Burst? What in the world is this? Interesting. Very interesting. Alright. I thought they might be bringing some bounce spells in, but that was one I was not expecting. Okay, so they're going to discard like that. I think that we are more interested in killing the mongrel. Yep. Alright, and then the only way we can get this back out... whoops. Tap for the wrong color there. Get black. And we'll throw the Mortician Beetle back out. Just hanging on to this forest here. They're not running chittering rats or anything. Can maybe fake like we have a little bit more interaction than we do. So this next turn here, it looks like we are going to have pretty decent attacks. They are going to get to filter their cards here. Haven't played a card for turn. Oh, I think that they're just discarding it to get it out of their hand. And they are passing back. Okay. So that's definitely not what we wanted to see. But we can swing in here with... Let's see, do we do the Jaspera Sentinel? They would have to discard a card to kill it, and we're pretty good on lands. Let's do it. Let's do it, because if they are... they actually can't block here unless they have a bounce spell. They are going to have to... There we go. Let that trade off. So we will pass back. And then on their end step, we're going to make sure to cycle this Ash Barrens for a swamp. So it looks like they are just filtering. So we'll pass until their end step, and then we will cycle the Ash Barrens. Alright, they just go ahead and scoop it up. On to game 3 here. Let's just double check real quick if there's anything else we might want to include in this matchup here. They're not really playing enchantments. Delver feels, Gurmag Angler, who has Delve, feels pretty good here. I don't know if I want to... I don't know what I would cut for it, though. That's the thing. Just don't know what I'd cut for it. So let's just ship it back. That felt pretty good. Could potentially bring in cast downs, but I'm probably not overly concerned with any of their creatures, really. As long as I can get something good going early, we can probably just go over top of this deck here. Let's see. We have just the one Jaspera Sentinel. Oh my goodness. This is a very risky hand. Like, this could be absolutely amazing. If we hit a land by turn 3, let's just keep it. This is incredibly greedy, so y'all are about to see me fall right on my face here, but there's a small chance for glory. Okay, that's exactly what we needed. Another creature. So that means that next turn we can go Young Wolf, and we can get the Mortician Beetle out as well. And they should not have a way to remove our Jaspera Sentinel other than bouncing it, so... Alright, got the mongrel. Okay, best draw here is probably land. That's not a land, but that'll work. we will throw out the Jaspera Sentinel because we really want to have more access to mana next turn since we've now missed our land drop. And it looks like I just want to run out the Mortician Beetle early here because that is going to be something we're going to have to force them to maybe bounce later. They're not going to be able to counter it. They could counter this Young Wolf, but we do also have Brindle Shoat and Nest Invader, so if we do hit a... Oh my goodness, they do not have blue mana. This is huge. Okay, so our plan is completely different this turn. I think what we're doing is we might just be Winding Wayn. Let's see, that takes us down to 5. We'll be able to play an extra card, which means that if we hit 4, we'll have to discard. So yeah, let's do Winding Way. I am doing this one here because... lead this... Oh, hang on. That doesn't work how I thought it was going to work. I guess we are going to have to run out this Young Wolf here first. There we go. And then we can tap all our creatures for this Winding Way. So still gets a creature out of our hand, but we are not going to be able to play something that we draw with this Winding Way here. So ideally we'd love to hit 3 or 4 cards. That sounds great. We're still going to... Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I was just about to say that picking land would not be the worst thing here because we do need lands, but I cannot believe that I just hit 3 lands in a Winding Way with that. My goodness. I'm not sure if this is just hindsight, but maybe I really just should have said land there. We do get a Carrion Feeder. That's really good. So let's go black, and we will tap here. Carrion Feeder. Oops. Hang on. We only have 3 mana here. So I guess it's Carrion Feeder and the Brindle Shoat. There we go. Got the black mana this time. Can throw out the Brindle Shoat, and then we can maybe swing with the Young Wolf. Is that what we want to be doing? Let's go black. Doesn't matter what color we get here. We'll go Brindle Shoat. And we'll pass turn. So we could potentially set up for some good attacks this next turn. If I sacrifice the Young Wolf and the Brindle Shoat to the Carrion Feeder, that is going to make all of them into 3/3s. Means that they could potentially be trading with this Rootwalla and their Wild Mongrel, but we are in a pretty good place here. My goodness. We might just be winning this because they haven't hit any lands, but to be fair, we've only hit 1 land, so our opponent has technically hit more lands than us. Are we going to want to just lead the Stampede right now? Let's go. I did not do the end of the turn sacrificing like I thought I was going to do, but that's probably just fine because I don't know if we would have wanted to attack here anyway because we could potentially have much better things going. You know what? While they're off of mana here, I am just going to lead the Stampede. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. Here we go. Lead the Stampede. Give me lots of cards. Alright, that wasn't particularly good. But we were able to get that off uncountered, so there's that at least. On this next turn, it looks like I might be sacrificing the Young Wolf and the Brindle Shoat. Could have potentially attacked with the Mortician Beetle and the Young Wolf there because we could have just been sacrificing, but they have so many cards in their hand that they might just be discarding to pump up the Wild Mongrel. Alright. Yep. Yes, we would like to use the ability. Always yield to the Brindle Shoat. Always yield to the Carrion Feeder. And then let's also sacrifice this Young Wolf here. Yep. Always yield. And we will take our turn. Alright, so let's go to combat. No. Let's throw out a lot of bodies and then go to combat. So we will go green, tap, green, and tap for a Nest Invader. And now we can go to combat, and we have pretty good swings, it looks like. Because if our opponent's going to be discarding cards from their hand, we can just pitch them right back. So we will attack with these ones here. And then we'll see how they block and then react to it. If they are going to be buffing up the Wild Mongrel, we can buff up both the Carrion Feeder and the Mortician Beetle. Them not having blue mana is absolutely brutal. Okay, so they are probably going to be able to eat our little boar here. I can just eat it from the by the Carrion Feeder right back. All right. So that's not too bad. All right, let's see how they're blocking. They are blocking the boar, and that's very interesting. Okay, so we are going to be doing some sacrifice in here. They've rethought their decision. Oh! Oh my! Well, let's let's start pumping them up and see who is willing to get bigger. Alright, so now I have a 4/4 and they have a 3/3. So unless they want to discard more, I think, you know what, I am just going to sacrifice this one here. Just because it gets an extra counter on the Mortician Beetle, and then they're going to be forced to have to bounce that. Alright, not going to sacrifice this little Eldrazi here. Let's see if they are going to buff up more. They're probably... Oh, they are fighting. Okay, okay. Alright, so they are going to make it a 4/4. Are they going to make it a 5/5? Let's see, 4/4 and 5/5, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to discard again, right? Yeah, so we will go sacrifice here. I mean, we'll keep fighting. Because it's not really costing us anything to sacrifice off these creatures here, so... So now we are 6/6, they are 5/5. Assuming they're going to discard another one. I mean, I will sacrifice another creature. Yeah, okay. So... I think I still just want to keep fighting over this. So let's sacrifice the young wolf here. Yes. So let's see, they got 6/6, we got 7/7. You gonna keep discarding? If they have an Ether Burst in hand, then drawing into something would be really good. Alright, so let's see, they are gonna buff it up again. So now 7/7 and 7/7. So do I want to keep going? I think I do. I think I do. Let's sacrifice the young wolf. Alright. So now I have 8/8, they have 7/7. And they are going to keep going. Okay. I guess we're sacrificing one more. Let's sacrifice this Nest Invader here. This is absolutely absurd. Alright, so we got 9/9. They have 8/8 once this trigger resolves. And yeah, they would need to discard one more. But they are not. Alright. And then we will just pass. So if they go exactly Island Ether Burst, that could set us back, but we are going to be able to regroup pretty nicely next turn. Yep, that's going to be the game. Alright, GG's. Alright, so there was the game.